The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Friday lunchtime, live from Douglas in the Isle of Man. Mannin Line's on. The floor is yours. We're open line till 1 today. Oh, and by the way, if the weather's okay this weekend, you can see Comet Suchin-san Atlas. A once-in-a-lifetime experience. Apparently, it's not going to be here for 95,000 years, so it's a fair old bet you won't see it again. Anyway, it's around this weekend. Stare to the skies between tomorrow and Monday. But if you're driving, by the way, do stop the car. Get out and have a look at it. That's Comet Suchin-san Atlas. It's not the Aurora Borealis, but take a look at it. You can see it with the naked eye. A fuzzy ball and a long tail stretching away. Brian's first with us today. Hi, Brian.
Hello, Andy. Yesterday, my wife and I walked down to the Sulby Dam.
Yeah.
And looking out over both sides, we were wondering if any commemoration could be made on Manx Radio, because it's such a fantastic engineering feat. And looking at the plaque just up on by the car park, it says that construction started in 1979, 45 years ago.
Yeah.
But the actual talking about it must have started 50 years ago or so. So what I thought was that it'd be nice to have a Manx Radio series of programmes, perhaps called the Sulby Dam Story, that told the story of the planning, the construction and the present-day running of Sulby Dam, which is an absolutely fantastic feat of engineering for such a small island.
What a great idea. I mean, it was finished, I think, in 1982, was it? I think it was 82.
We came to the island in 82.
Yeah.
And it was just about finished then. But it would be wonderful if there was people still around who remember the planning of it, say politicians, architects, planners, and construction workers who are around. If not, I mean, obviously there are some that are not with us now, but in Manx Radio archives there'll be recordings of, I'd like to know who the first person was on Manx Radio that mooted having a dam somewhere on the island that we needed. It'd be very interesting to hear who was the first person who was heard on the wireless about it, and all your recordings that you have will have talks with politicians, with planners, people who were against it, construction workers. It would make a fantastic series of broadcasts.
I'm writing all this down. I'm going to give it to the creative people. We got a community program section. So the Sulby Reservoir story. It's one of the things, Brian, isn't it? It just gently does its stuff, and has done for 42 years now. When
you look at it, you think, well, it's always been there, but it wasn't. You know,
no, certainly not. No.
And by word, we need it now. So I think it would be a really nice programme to make. Something for John Moss to get his teeth into.
Oh, I'm sure. He'd be champing at the bit. Okay. All right, Brian, I've written all that down. I'll pass that through to the people responsible for that.
Yes, thanks very much, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thank you, Brian. And if anybody happens to be listening who was involved in the construction or the preparation of the Sulby Dam, I would love to hear from you. It's one of my favourite spots on the Isle of Man. Largest reservoir, 154 acres or so it is, completed in 1982. It's supplies the northern half of the Isle of Man, of course, St John's, Peelcut, Michael, Ballaugh, Andres, Bride, Ramsey and Laxey, and I think it can also be pumped to West Baldwin as well from there. West Baldwin, of course, supplies Douglas and the southern half of the Isle of Man, and there's a tiny hydroelectric there as well. Thank you, Brian. It's good to hear from you. And nobody's ever mentioned the Sulby Dam before and the Sulby Reservoir, so happy to put that. It really was a heck of a feat from, 1979 to 1982 to fill the darn thing as well. Right, David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. Shepherd Hill was the contractor, and there are some joiners still in Onken that worked on the particular site, but I wasn't going to talk about that. But you can also throw in, Andy, if you would, too, whatever happened to when Shepherd Hill was here as well, regarding the stabbits that were done on the breakwater.
Oh, did they do those as well?
That was a massive... French Care was the contractor. I remember seeing that when I was younger. Large dumper trucks coming from Port Sodrick Way, where they had a batching plant, down the quay. They reinforced the road, and the harbour was built. But anyway, what I wanted to come on ours, Andy, was to do with the email that was sent out to local authorities some time ago now, where it was about the 30th of September. I'm not speaking on behalf of my own authority, but my concern is government have decided now to stop the bring banks regarding paper.
Yeah.
Now, I thought we had this thing about reduce, reuse, recycle. All these jig words that we have, and some of them work fine, don't they? We do recycle stuff. We've got a next generation coming forward. We're telling them all the time, put this in that bin, put that in the other bin, and this, that, and the other. And here we are. And why didn't they consult with us all?
All right, for new listeners, start here. The bring banks are where you can go and recycle paper. The government's saying now, don't bother, just send it to be burnt. Is that right?
Well, that's the way they're looking at it. They're not saying it in so many words, but what's the alternative?
Well, they're not suggesting we all make paper mache models, are they? We've got to get rid of the darn stuff, and they were supposed to be handling the getting rid of it bit, and now they don't want to.
Well, yes, and I just wondered what's the story behind it? Who's made that particular decision? Was it a collective decision? How much consultation have they done with the local authorities? Because as far as I can see, there's none. And with the population are going to think out there, it's not only the government's fault, but maybe the local authorities' fault. But I can tell you for a fact it isn't. So I just want to bring that out there and just say to people, well, you know, we were encouraging people to walk to recycling bins in Onken, all other places. Near the grandstand there's a full set of bins there that maybe don't get emptied as regular as they should do. But anyway, what's going to happen with all them? I don't know. And the biggest thing, Andy, is your team can find out, can't they, who's behind it?
Yeah, it sounds like don't do as I do, do as I say, doesn't it?
That's right. So we've got to take all these signs down saying now, reduce, reuse, recycle, and they can't use that as a jig work anymore. All right?
All right. Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. It's, what are we at? 14 minutes past 12. Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hiya, Andy. I've just walked in the door and I heard you mention about the Sulby Dam. Shepherd Hill were the initial contractors, but the government at the time, once this was being built, they decided to more or less double the size of it. But instead of continuing with Shepherd Hill, they put it back out to contract and out to contract. And I think it was Tarmac, the company. They were successful and they carried on from where Shepherd Hill had finished and built it higher up. And that was the wall, the grassed embankment now that you see, but there's a tarmac core goes up through the centre of that, and then the rock infill at the back of it. So, yeah, because I was going up there when I worked at Manx Petroleum in Douglas before I went to the airport, and we used to be hauling red diesel up there, and they were going through some astronomical amounts of diesel. The big excavators, the bulldozers, etc., working in the bottom of what is the dam, they were going through something like 40 gallons an hour. You know, so we were hauling thousands of gallons of fuel up there, And
I'm just trying to remember, Howard. This was pre-Comyn. This would have been Exco, wouldn't it? So
I don't know at the time. It was in the 19...
I'm just trying to think, was it DHPP, the Department of Highways, Ports and Properties? I just wonder.
Probably was. There was a lot of caravans there where the car park is now, and some of the crew that were working up there were living in the caravans. And from what I'm led to believe, instead of taking them away back off the island, they just crushed them and buried them. So, as far as I know, they're underground, just upside off the car park where you go and sit and look out across the waters. But also the cement was coming in. They had their own plant up there. And a friend of ours, a family friend, he was driving the truck, hauling raw cement powder from Ramsey up to the dam area, and they had their own silos and everything. It was a well-organised, well-set-out plan, and they seemed to know exactly what they were doing. But as I say, it was a joint effort. The government thought, well, knowing what's going to happen, they must have had plans in their mind somewhere to increase the population of the island. The dam up there was going to cover what was in existence, but there was more needed, and this is where I think Tarmac came in. They actually were successful in getting the contract to finish to complete the dam, shall I say, in its new form, and then it was all landscaped, etc. But it was an amazing. The road going down to the dam itself, there used to be a very tight bend, and they eased all that out to allow heavy traffic, etc., to go up and down.
Yeah.
And I think Shepherd Hill, my memory serves me right, were involved somewhere in the IRA scheme. At one of the plaques down there by the sea terminal area on the old toilets, there's a couple of three plaques down there, and it gives various names, etc., and companies who were involved in it. Okay. But the other one was, David was saying about the Stabbits. Well, that land, you wouldn't even know there'd been anybody working there, because it's coming from Oak Hill through to Kerristal. They took all the topsoil off there, stacked it up, and then they built a manufacturing plant there where they can make the moulds, and you're talking several thousand of these things, the Stabbits. And they were hauling them in. They were churning them out and then leaving them to stack and dry, and there must have been chemical finishes on them. But having said that, they were hauling them in then through, and the two cranes that were lowering them down into the seaward side. But now when you go there, you wouldn't know there'd been anything, because that topsoil was put back again, and it looks exactly as it was before they started.
You see, we used to be able to do things like that. We used to be able to, that Stabbits was a massive, massive job, and absolutely does its job day in, day out, very quietly, sits there smiling at the eels and does its job. Sulby Dam does its job. The reservoir does its job.
Exactly, and this is when we had a government that could think for themselves and not have to run out and get half a dozen consultants every time they want to make some sort of decision. Okay. But the Stabbits, well, there was, if anybody remembers, for a long time, there was one placed down on the Bottleneck car park down there. One of the Stabbits was down there as a display piece.
Oh, I remember, yes.
That's where that large wheel is now, if anybody is interested. That's part of the old cable car system that used to run up through the top of Douglas.
Yeah. I remember they were digging the road up and found the wheel, didn't they?
That's right. So they had it preserved, and that is down there now as just a memory of the old cable car system.
Okay. All right.
Just as a point of interest for anybody that's listening to the programme now, tonight, BBC One, and again it has Isle of Man interests, BBC One, 7:30, the secret something or other, but it's concerning the Northern Lights, and it's the people that look after the lighthouses in the north of the British Isles.
Right.
and Chicken's Rock is the one that's going to be featured tonight.
Okay, well, and it's a fine building as well.
It is, yes, and that's the Faris. That's the name of the ship that they use, and she comes in here quite often.
Right.
But that's a program. It's a new series is coming on, and tonight is the Chicken's Rock.
Okay, all right, Howard, appreciate it.
Take care. Bye now.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Here's a note, by the way. It's Meet Your MHK this weekend as a political surgery for Douglas Central constituency. It's on tomorrow at All Saints Church Hall in Alexander Drive, 2 till 4 p.m. Drop in and see Anne Corlett and Chris Thomas, MHKs, if you're of the Douglas Central constituency and you have something you'd like to talk to Anne or Chris about. Tomorrow, 2 till 4 at All Saints Church Hall, Alexander Drive. I have a checkup, endoscopy, every 2 years because I have pre-cancer cells in my stomach, says Ken. I've just been told it's been now cancelled. So how will I know if I develop cancer? Pre-cancerous cells in my stomach, and now the endoscopy every 2 years has now been cancelled. Just like that. Is that because of the Manx Care cuts? And coincidentally, this is a note in from CP, who said, for Manx Care to say any cutbacks will not involve cancer patients isn't strictly true. I've had cancer and spent 9 weeks at Clatterbridge a few years ago having treatments for prostate cancer. It's in remission. I suffer from another complaint that's required me to attend Nobles on an annual basis for a few years now that can become cancerous, which is why it's monitored. My last annual check, the specialist told me that they'd see me in 6 months. Worryingly, I recently got a letter informing me that I'll be called back in 5 years' time for my next consultation. And Manx Care say the cutbacks won't involve cancer patients. From CP and from Ken in Onken, that was the one about precancerous cells. Well, that's what they say. The previous health minister's been having a chat about it as well. Rob Callister has had something to say, just talking about what the situation is with Manx Care, the funding crisis. The former health minister urges the chief minister and the health and social care minister to sit down with Manx Care and tackle the issues. This is Onken MHK, Rob Callister.
So I understand the pressures that are on Manx Care, but I'm just looking at some of the items, for example, like they're talking about closing the Ramsey Minor Injury Unit, which is going to be closed at weekends until the end of the calendar year. Now, for me personally, that was there to take pressure off Nobles Hospital. So you have to seriously question, how that's going to sort of affect the main hospital.
If you were still the health minister, what would you be looking at potentially cutting, or what would you be doing if you were tasked with a similar?
Well, I think the one thing I would not have looked at is the elective surgery. I mean, that was a separate funding application, well, 2 separate funding applications from Tynwald, which put £20 million aside in order to reduce very high levels of people waiting for surgery, and that was reduced from 4,500 down to less than 2,500. That was a massive achievement by everyone involved. But suddenly now those sort of waiting lists could increase again. So I would never have targeted elective surgery. I think secondly, I would have worked with the chief executive of Manx Care and the board very closely to look at what could have been reduced or scaled back. I mean, they've obviously come up with their own priorities. Manx Care is an arm's length organisation. We have to respect that. But we may need greater political oversight, especially when they're making very, very difficult decisions that actually do affect frontline services.
There's 2 sides of the argument. Either Manx Care is overspending or it's underfunded. Which side of the fence do you sit on?
Well, obviously, Sir Jonathan Michael gave a very clear calculation in his report. And when I was the health minister for that very brief period, I used that calculation to stand my corner, should we say, with the Treasury team to say what amount the Manx Care should be given. And I think at the time it was slightly less than what we were expecting. I think we need a real serious conversation or a debate around the direction Manx Care is going, because I think there is some brilliant staff within the organisation at the very top as well. At the very top of Manx Care, we have some great leaders in that organisation. The question is, how do we actually solve the problem on funding? And are we actually going to be asking the Manx public to pay for certain things which they've never had to pay for in the past? Some really difficult conversations.
Rob Callister talking about Manx Care, DHSC, the funding problem that we have here. It would be nice to get to the bottom of it. Was Manx Care set up to fail? Did they deliberately underfund it? Did they expect them to pull a rabbit out of a hat? Text, email, call and WhatsApp this is Anne this is for 090. Should anybody die as a result of the cuts in services that Manx Care or Manx don't care, says Anne, they'll have blood and death on their hands and will be responsible. The Isle of Man, I think, is a dangerous place to live. Thank you, Anne. I've had lots of very emotional messages about what Manx Care have done. It helps, I think, if we can take the emotion out of it. I know it's difficult to take the emotion out of it because Manx Care is an emotional thing. You know, you need Manx Care when you're not very well, or friends, family, close ones aren't well. And the fact that their care may be constrained by something as filthy as money makes people emotional. But we need to get to the bottom of it. We need to move a little further along down the line. How do we stop it happening? How does it not happen again? As Rob Callister said, look, are we going to start charging for things? In Jersey, you have to pay for a GP's appointment. Go to the emergency department in Guernsey, it costs you £100. Are we giving stuff away for free in the health service that we should be charging for? Or do we start at the other end and put tax up? Let's be honest about it. Shall we put tax up for this? You know, at every Monday and Friday, we bring you stuff from the archive because we're 60 years old this year. I may have mentioned it before, but we're 60 years old. You simply have to listen to today's. After Mannin Line finishes today, this is absolutely sensational. It's 1973. Peter Neal, the late, great Peter Neal, is talking to Keith McArd. You know, McArd Builders? Peter Neal talks to Keith McArd in 1973 about affordable housing for young people on the Isle of Man. I've listened about 10 times. It's absolutely fascinating. Peter Neal and Keith McArd in 1973 after Mannin Line today.
Hi guys, David Todd here. Just wanted to say a big happy 60th birthday to Manx Radio.
Whatever your business, whatever its size, you can always rely on the island's leading fuel and oil supplier to keep you moving. Ellen Vannin Fuels, powering the island and powering industry. Call us on 844 000.
From our castles to our cottages, our museums and the Great Laxey Wheel. You'll find hidden treasures around every corner when you visit a Manx National Heritage Site. Fill your summer making treasured memories with Manx National Heritage. Sites now open every day. By visiting, you help protect our treasured island for generations to come. Plan your visit today at manxnationalheritage.im.
There's monkeys and meerkats, penguins galore. You can meet with a panda, owls, lemurs and more.
The Currachs Wildlife Park is open 7 days a week. So book your tickets and experiences online now at currachswildlifepark.im.
Check out the Groudle Glen Railway timetable for some great days out. Visit the Clifftop Tea Rooms and Sales Emporium, book a special steamed tea, and join our free family train spotting challenge. Hop on the line that goes uphill to the sea, the Groudle Glen Railway. For times, see ggr.org.uk or visit on Facebook.
The previous message was brought to you by QVH, the island's premier serviced offices and co-working space in the heart of Douglas. Call 639 940 for more information or visit qvhpremierofficespace.com.
Coming up, we have another winning weekend here on Manx Radio. And this time, we're giving you the chance to win £200 to put towards your next car service at Quayside Tyre and Service Centre. The team will get your car winter ready with a comprehensive service. Book in today and drive with confidence right through the winter months. To win, all you need to do is listen out for our winning question, which we'll ask on air right across the weekend. Once you've heard it, text your answer to 166 177. Make this your winning weekend with Quayside Tyre and Service Centre and your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Tony B. Hi, Tony.
How you doing, Andy?
Very well. What a lovely day.
Yeah. I hope you're not sick. Because if you are, you better just arrange your funeral or something, the way things are going. Put your affairs in order. Anyway, what I called for was I'm getting more and more confused and frustrated. Manx Care keeps saying, or have said very recently, as did the Health Minister, we were never funded properly. Okay, fine. So they weren't funded properly. So that's somebody in government at the time decided they didn't need all that money, which is typical of government, okay? So I'm not moaning about that. I'm not moaning about anything else, but I would ask the question, so you took all the responsibility for the healthcare system off of DHSC and gave it to Manx Care. Is that correct in my understanding?
Yeah, well, the day-to-day operations, yeah, that moved from.
Right.
And so DHSC is policy, if you like, the political bit. Manx Care is day-to-day nuts and bolts.
Right, that makes sense, but that doubles up on everything because you've still got DHSC. I don't believe they fired anybody from DHSC, have they?
Not that I know of.
So all the people out before that were managing those services are still there. So all you've done is doubled up on a system, and then you've added in huge amounts of cost by having off-island people on the board who are, as far as I can tell, faceless. We don't know who they are. We don't get to talk to them. They're just sitting in the background and we're paying them like a consultant, as far as I can see. So my first thing would be, right, get hold of DHSC. Anybody that worked in operations in DHSC before gets fired. That's the first thing, because they don't have a job anymore. And I would also question why we need a board. I'm just struggling with does a board do for us other than never make a decision that makes any sense. And that shouldn't be off-island at all. The board should be staffed with people who live here and understand the problems that the Manx people have got. And if you can't manage that inside the Isle of Man, stop spending money on trying to make it work here and send more people across and spend less on what you've got here. Because right now, if you're sick, you go to A&E, okay? And one of the things they've said is, we're going to close Ramsey Cottage Hospital. Is it Cottage Hospital? I don't know. Ramsey, anyway. That's going to get closed at weekends and save the princely sum of £15,000 a month. I think that was the number that was thrown out.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely asinine. They could save that on airfares, just getting rid of all these people flying back and forwards. It's just they're not looking at what they should be looking at. The Cottage Hospital has already been closed weekends for the last months. It's not just now we're going to do it till Christmas. It's been closed already. It's not been open at weekends for ages. I live in Ramsey, I know. I drive past it.
Now, they always say that, all the politicians always say that Ramsey Cottage Hospital is untouchable. Nobody's going to close Ramsey Cottage Hospital down. I just wonder, and I'm not being mischievous, but I just wonder if we didn't have two ministers as MHKs in Ramsey, of course the Treasury Minister, second only to the Chief Minister, and the DHSC Minister, you just wonder what would happen to Ramsey Cottage Hospital.
Well, it's already gone downhill because they've moved the catering out of there. I know people who used to stay there and said the food here, Ramsey Cottage Hospital, is fantastic because they're making fresh soup every morning, giving it to people and they loved it. And they're now getting pre-frozen stuff, which I can understand. You've got a scale. It's basically how big is it. So, but now they've got rid of the cottage hospital food.
Yeah.
So now you're relying on Douglas.
But you just wonder, Tony, how much are they saving by closing the canteen? I mean, it's reheat now. It's just chill and reheat. And we all know that isn't plan A, is it? Yeah. So really, how much are they saving by penny pinching on the kitchen at Ramsey Cottage Hospital?
Lord knows, it'll be pennies. But the issue is, it all comes back to the old age-old thing. Everything should be run out of Douglas. Douglas-centric, which is madness. So you've got probably a couple of thousand people each month drive from Ramsey to Douglas because they need treatment when they could have gone to the local hospital here. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. But that's what they want to do because we'll take it out somewhere that's not obvious.
And it doesn't do much for our carbon footprint either.
No, it doesn't do anything for anybody because those old people often will have to go by bus. Can you imagine what that's like? It's a whole day's journey. I just find the whole way this is heading is just, it's not going to get better very quickly. And why don't they just admit this was a massive mistake based on something that was done 4 years ago, and this bloke who did the study was not thinking that, things might not be quite the same next year or the year after, and they started in the middle of COVID.
I mean, do you think...
That doesn't make any sense either.
Do you think that somewhere somebody said, obviously, the Jonathan Michaels report recommended Manx Care, do you think somebody somewhere has taken a blueprint, a matrix, a format from the UK or England perhaps, and just said, this is how we're going to do it on the Isle of Man, and put that on the Isle of Man and are just trying to make it work?
More than likely, but the issue is, the Jonathan Michaels report, or whatever he's called, where did he get his background from? Is he a doctor or is he a civil servant? I don't know.
Well, he was he was a medical executive. I think he was a kidney specialist or something like that. He was chief executive of the Guy's and St Thomas NHS Trust. So he was a clinician who became an exec, who became a bureaucrat. So I rest my case. So you don't get somebody who's trying to do the right thing for the Isle of Man. You get a bureaucrat who says, I need a big organisation like this, this and this to look after these 80-odd thousand people when I'm used to doing something in the middle of London, and I didn't like how it was because we didn't have enough resources, so we'll have a few more. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. We are a very, very small nation. And this is just going to cost more and more and more money. They need to take a step back and say, if we can't handle this system at this time, then we'll never be able to handle it. Well, would you forgive the government if they actually came out, Tony, and said, look, folks, we got it wrong. We're going back. We're going to change now. It's going to cost us a few extra million, but we're going back to how we were. I mean, wouldn't...
I would think that was something that most people will welcome with open arms. Certainly most of the doctors working at Nobles would. It's not the doctor's fault. This is because the systems that they put in place are so complicated. It's just the whole systems do not work. They are not integrated. Departments work separately and then have a meeting once a week and discuss a patient who's got 3 different things wrong with them. That's not the way to approach it. My personal feeling is we should get in and open up a private area within the hospital and say, OK, who wants to be a private doctor in the Isle of Man? And what we're going to do is we're going to send you all our problem cases. So you've got to be on the ball because some of the doctors they got are appalling. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. And we need to get the best of the best and get really good quality consultants to come here in the Isle of Man. And there are a few that are here, but not many, like it used to be before we became quasi-Manx Care.
Right. So you think we should become, if you like, a centre of excellence?
Correct. And then you'll have people coming across here to get treatment done because they can't get it done in the UK. That's what they should spend any money on. And by doing that, becoming a centre of excellence, you're then in a situation where your local people get the best possible care at the lowest possible cost with the least amount of carbon footprints because they don't travel.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what is wrong with these people? They can't see any of this.
Okay.
It's
All
because
right.
they're so close to the coalface and they're having job preservation issues that they're all backpedaling. And not one of them has apologised.
Okay. All right. Tony, I appreciate that. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, good take care, Andy, because I guess we'll go to the vet next time.
Thanks for calling.
Hello, this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
Step into Office World, the island's largest fully stocked stationery store, where there's over 5,000 items on display to take away. From pens, paper, inks and toners to general stationery, adhesives and batteries. You can get what you need right now from Office World. With all the big brands, including Pilot, Pentel, Sellotape, Duracell, Gorilla, Pucker Pads and more. Office World is conveniently located on Spring Valley Industrial Estate, with easy parking right outside the door.
Office World! It's the perfect time to plant spring bulbs and winter pansies, and there's a wide range available at Ramsey Garden Centre, plus a full range of garden essentials for indoor and out, including battery lights. Visit Ramsey Garden Centre, open 7 days a week.
Love your local community, love shopping, love meeting people. You'll love being a shop mobility buddy. If you have a few hours to spare each month, join us at Circa and discover how you can help mobilise the Manx community and ensure that they have an enjoyable shopping experience in Douglas. We'll provide the mobility aids, and as a volunteer, you'll provide the companionship. For more details, find us on level 2 of Chester Street Car Park or click circa.org.im. Sponsored by the Manx Lottery Trust as a delegated partner of the National Lottery Community Fund.
At Manning Medics, we offer a wide range of health checks and specialist private consultants, including respiratory, renal, general surgery and gastroenterology. We can even do home visits too. To find out about all we have to offer and to book, visit manningmedics.com. Manning Medics, quality healthcare you can trust. Manning Medics is a trading name of I'll Love Your Gut Limited.
After a disappointing last few days, FC Isle of Man will be looking to get back to better ways as they return to the bowl this weekend. The Ravens take on Padiham on Manx Shores this Saturday, with Paul Jones' team looking to turn things around after back-to-back defeats. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus Padiham, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
16 minutes to 1. Anne's on now. Hi, Anne.
Good afternoon, Andy. I just have to say I second everything Tony says from the bottom of my heart. However, not rang up about that. What I'd like to, I think I've got the answer to everything. I've got the answer to all the Manx Nation's woes.
Oh, thank the Lord.
Oh, yes, thank you, God. Legalise, decriminalise and turn the Isle of Man into a viceless Amsterdam. We sort out the tourism that way. We give everyone a job. We heal everybody. It's a licence to print money, as the government's found out. That's why it's sort of dispensing it all over the place. So that is my answer I was going to say a nutshell, but in a seed, really. It will just improve everyone's lives. We'll have so much money, well, we won't know what to do with it. If money's the issue, we'll have good health and we'll have happiness.
Okay.
The whole island would be happy.
So, which bit of cannabis do you want to legalise, medicinal or recreational?
Right. Well, I've got a theory that you only take it recreationally if you need it medicinally. Because if you're not being treated, I mean, a lot of people get gaslighted by the health service, actually, between you and me. But and then people who are being gaslighted by the health service, they find cannabis, and they find cannabis improves their lives 100%. I mean, I'd actually say it's an antidote to death as well. So as long as you can maintain that high vibration that cannabis can lift you up to, you can get over everything. So I think...
Is this something you've had personal experience of, Anne?
Oh, yes. I've got a spine and brain injury, and it's never been treated, but cannabis has saved my life. Purely. And it's purely cannabis because none of my injuries have been treated, so it can only be it's the only thing that it can be.
And in what way does it relieve pain? How does it work?
Right, well, I found it when I was 15, 16, and what it did, it lifted me up out of my pain. And it just took me to a level of, I can only say, well-being. That's all I can describe it as, is well-being. And it soothed me and it comforted me when no one else could be bothered, even though, my parents were fully paid up members of the establishment and within the system. But no, all I can say is it's a cure-all. Okay. I truly believe. You only have to look at me as well.
What do you say, and to people who would say that it can be a gateway to harder drugs?
Well, that's like saying mother's milk can lead to alcoholism, really, isn't it?
So it's down to the individual then?
Oh, it's definitely down to the individual, but also there may be, people have mental health issues or other issues or emotional issues or bodily issues that aren't being diagnosed and their pain is deep, then maybe they're looking for something deeper. But if we had a functioning health service that actually could do its job, then people wouldn't get that bad. And as I say, I only believe people do it recreationally if they need it medicinally.
Okay.
And that is it.
All right, and we appreciate it. Thanks for calling today.
Okay, thank you. If I would like to give me a licence, I'll change everyone's fortunes. Right. Okay, good day.
Have a good weekend. Thanks for that. And Neil's on now. Hi, Neil.
Good afternoon, Andy. I can't understand why everybody is so surprised about the fact that the department has had to make cuts. We're no different to any other Western country. I think there's two strands of importance. Number one, we have unsustained numbers of people moving into the island, which is creating a huge demand. And that's in common with Ireland, who are under pressure at the moment, England, France, Germany. Everybody is in the same boat. The second strand is that for some reason, we seem to have become a society which runs to A&E or the doctor for the slightest thing, chip a fingernail and everybody runs to the doctor. My parents' generation, my grandparents, they rarely visited the doctor, and I'm very fortunate. I'm in good health, and I haven't been to the doctor for donkey's years, to be honest, although I appreciate some people are genuinely ill. But I think Mrs. Cope has obviously had to take remedial action to get within her budget, and she has no option other than to cut services. So I don't know why everybody is so surprised.
Interesting that you talk about the fact that maybe nowadays we are a more entitled society regarding healthcare.
Yes, I think we have become an entitled society. I think it started with the baby boomers who seem to think they're entitled to absolutely everything. But we become a mamby-pamby sort of state, really. Nobody we have a wonderful selection of various pharmacies on the island. I mean, if I have anything, I haven't seen the pharmacist for a long time, but if I need to see anybody, I'd pop down and see Mahender in Castletown down there. He's as good as a doctor, to be honest. A bit of ointment for a rash and you sort it out. But I think a lot of people actually waste the hospital time on tiny little things which a bit of self-help would cure. A proper diet, plenty of exercise, good sleep, good food inside you, and hopefully genetically you're not going to catch anything unless it's in your family, and take it from there.
So, how do you get that message through to people? Assuming what you say is correct, how do you say to people, look, without being pejorative, man up and live your life and cope with things?
Well, I think people do need to man up. We have people at our company, they'll take time off for a bit of a head cold. It's crazy. My grandparents and parents, they'd work through anything, to be honest. They were pretty tough. And I think that generation were brought up to be tough and look after themselves, but everybody's sitting around on smartphones. Even the children today, they're all fat and out of condition. They're all sitting around going ping, ping, ping all day. I mean, let's get real and start looking after ourselves instead of running to the doctor all the time. And the first port of call has to be the pharmacist. As I say, there's wonderful pharmacies around the island. They're the first port of call, not run down to A&E and clog the system up.
Okay.
But I feel sorry for Mrs. Cope. I think they're doing their very best, and in common with every other Western country, I'm afraid we have to make cuts due to the sheer number of people coming in and the unsustainable growth, which is actually hammering the services on the island, not just the health system, but education, water, and everything else. And we are not out of step with anybody else. We're all in the same boat, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, Neil. Thanks for calling today.
Thanks, Andy. Bye now.
Appreciate it. 9 minutes before 1 on Manx Radio. I just want to point you to next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, a couple of very special guests. And the backdrop to this is the latest estimates say there's over 86 million tonnes of plastic in the sea worldwide. 86 million tonnes. Plastic boxes, bottles, bags. Then you have microplastics, nanoplastics, harming the environment, harming animals, and us. Now, next Wednesday, Jerome Watts is a former ocean yacht racer, now lives in Castletown, but he's raced the seas of the world in ocean-going yachts, so he knows all about plastic in the oceans. And he's got views on the tiny stuff, on nanoplastics and microplastics. And Bill Dale is here. Remember Bill? A man on a beach with a dog who saw a piece of plastic and cleaned it up. Bill Dale started Beach Buddies to clean our beaches and now is recognised worldwide, and the model has been taken here, there and everywhere. Next Wednesday we're talking about plastic. Is it drastic? And what's going to happen? So if you've got any views on this, nanoplastics, microplastics, or just plastic in the sea, then have a tune in next Wednesday. If you've got any thoughts on the matter, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Text, email and WhatsApp on the day, or you can email manninline@manxradio.com in the meantime. Love to hear from you. So remember this weekend, Douglas Central MHKs. Got a surgery, All Saints Church Hall, Alexander Drive in Douglas, 2 till 4. Thanks to Billy, who just said, well, as far as Manx Care is concerned, surely the canary in the mine was the fact that nobody is able to get a dentist. Nearly 5,000 people on the list wait. Surely everybody knew something was going on when you couldn't get a dental appointment. If this is stretching across Manx Care, what on earth is going to happen to us? Regarding the Manxman, what's the government going to do with a vessel that's unfit for the purpose regarding berthing at Heysham during frequent periods of high wind? Well, we'll hold that one till next week, Mark. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
A modern complaint is the lack of homes that would enable young people, single or couples, to start their journeys up that famous ladder. Well, 50 years ago at Ballacurry, McArds seem to have had it well in hand. This is an interview from 1973. Keith McArd talking with Peter Neal.
We bought this site nearly 5 years ago now, in 1969, when we took the risk, as the building trade in those days was by no means what it is now. But we felt there was a need for new homes for young Manx couples, and we had confidence in the future.
As a matter of interest, how many houses have been built up to now on Ballacurry, and how many have gone to Manx people?
Well, we have actually built, sold and occupied 210 houses, and bungalows that is, to date. And of these, 180 have been sold to Manx people.
Which sort of bears out the theory you had when you bought the land in the first place.
Exactly, yes indeed. And the greatest majority of these are two young couples in their first home.
Now, can we talk, we were talking to Brian earlier and he said they go along to see you to decide which type of house. How do you advise them? Do you have sort of numerous plans that you can show them of particular houses?
Yes, we have brochure designs which we've made up, which detail a brief specification of each house, and also a little plan showing the layout with the room sizes, etc., and prices together with land prices.
Now, if someone particularly didn't want anything you've got there, can they design their own?
They can. We reserve a certain number of plots on each of our sites for special designs, and then we have other plots which are devoted for our standard type designs.
Yeah. Now, onto the building itself, you believe here in building traditionally, don't you?
We do indeed. As an old established Manx firm, we believe that traditional building is the best, and it has the lasting qualities which have been proved through the ages.
What about the building by private enterprise scheme? I think Ballacurry is the biggest participant in this, isn't it?
Quite true, Peter, quite true. I think we can safely say we're by far the largest builders under the private enterprise scheme, and this again proves that we are catering for the young Manx couples.
This was, I'm going to say, this is the important scheme for people, isn't it, in the island?
It is indeed, yes indeed. It's the main scheme, and that we cooperate well with the local government board, and I think they'll agree with us on this.
Yeah. How many houses eventually are going to be on Ballacurry?
We've done it in 2 major phases, although it's subdivided into smaller phases, but we have a total of about 320 houses in when we'll be completely finished. 320, yeah.
And I understand that's about 3 years off, is it, roughly?
Yeah, 2.5, 3 years would be a realistic, I think, date.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio. The Mannin Line. Daily interaction, debate and exchange of ideas. Broadcast on Manx Radio from midday till 1, Monday to Friday.